What does Barbie mean to you? When I was a kid, there was a Barbie commercial on TV that said, "Be who you wanna be, Barbie girl." So to me, Barbie was whoever I wanted her to be, and I could be whoever I wanted to be with Barbie and some imagination. She could be a doctor, an astronaut, a teacher, a mom. And I loved setting up my Barbie's houses and having them go about their daily life. Also, looking back at this Queen Anne revival Barbie dream house from the late 1990s that I played with for most of my childhood, it is quite possible that Barbie also sparked my love of historical architecture. Also, I definitely had the pregnant Midge Barbie and the whole Happy Family set as a kid, and I had no idea that it was controversial until like 2 weeks ago when the movie came out and like the whole Midge situation. So I was kind of playing around with this idea of making a Barbie dress. I've seen everyone online making a Barbie dress. And when I mean Barbie dress, I mean like the Barbie dress from the movie, the pink checked one that Margot Robbie wears, and that opening scene of being a Barbie and her dream house and everything seems so magical. And I cannot wait to go see the movie. Neither can Lucky. You have a dream house here, don't you? And I was thinking like, oh, maybe I have enough like leftover scraps from the Barbie outfit I just made. I can make like a Princess and the Pauper version of it. Like something like cosplay-ish thing. And I was like, no, I don't have enough scraps left. So then I started going through my fabric stash, and lo and behold, I found a pink checked. Is it the perfect pink checked? No, but you know I'm not going to make an exact cosplay because that's not like really my thing. I like making a more historically informed version of cosplays because that is fun. So I had this idea, what if I make a 1960s version of Barbie's dress? And I have found this pattern that I really loved. It's a simplicity pattern, one of the retro ones. And I thought, since Barbie came out in 1959, I mean, she was like barely in the 50s. Really, the 60s were her decade. And that's why I'm going to make my Barbie's dress a 1960s version. All right, let's go do it. Step 1 is to always cut out the pattern. I am using Simplicity Pattern 8591, and it is one of their reprinted vintage patterns. This pattern was originally Simplicity 3782 and was originally published in 1961. Now, I learned that after some research, but just based off of the silhouette and design, I knew that this dress had to be from the early 1960s because it still had the poofy skirt that is so iconic of the mid to late 1950s. And since Barbie was first introduced to the world in 1959, this was the absolute perfect style to make a historically accurate Barbie dress. This pattern has 3 variations of the dress, and I will be making view A, but without the stripe of fabric trim at the bottom of the skirt. This pattern was originally advertised, quote unquote, easy to sew, and I did find the pattern to be rather simple. The most complicated part of the pattern was placing the darts on the bodice pieces that you can see me doing here. But once the darts were on the bodice, well, the bodice went together really easy. I just had to pin the front piece to the 2 back pieces and then sew those seams together, and voila! I had a bodice. Now, for anyone who is interested in the history of Barbie, I actually did a whole program about the history of Barbie for my work. It is a lecture style video on my work's YouTube channel, which I will link below, and I hope you get to check it out and leave a comment over there too. So I thought I was going to have to take this bodice in a lot more because sometimes I have to do that on simplicity and butter patterns and McCall's, depending on the pattern. But this one is actually fitting really well and really true to the size that it says it was going to be. There's a little bit of room, and I'm a little worried that it might be a little like tight under the arms. But I think that's also just because I'm wearing a t-shirt under it to try it on to show you. But yeah, I might have to take it a little bit in. But if you see, like, the side seam, like it's nice. It's on the side. I feel like that's where it's supposed to be. So I might end up just taking in at the back when I put in the zipper. Or I might just take a little bit more in there and not mess with any more like darts on like the waist or darts like in the back or anything. But yeah, pretty happy with it so far. The next step was pinning and then sewing the skirt panels together. I was really excited about how full this skirt was because I love a skirt with a good twirl factor. There were 3 skirt panels. There was one that made up the entire front, and then there were 2 for the back, very much just like with the bodice. After sewing all of the skirt panels together, I then pressed everything flat, and I actually finished the seams on my skirt panels. And not just by serging them, I actually stitched them down because I was able to cut the panels themselves to where they just had the selvage edge. So I was able to just stitch that down onto the skirt. I then put a gathering stitch all the way across the top of all of the skirt panels. I put the tension to my sewing machine as well, loose as it would go, which for my machine is a 5. And then I put that gathering stitch all the way across the top and then pulled one of the threads. So you can pull the bottom thread or the top thread, just not usually both. It doesn't work that way. You pull one and then you can gather the skirt together. Once the skirt was gathered, I then attached the top bodice piece to the skirt to make a dress. And there was a little bit of a problems that I ran into when I was doing this, and that was, well, trying to get the gathers to lay as evenly as possible across the entire dress, trying to keep the back panels, well, in the back so that you didn't have like side seams like in the front, because they're not supposed to be there. So anyway, I do think the skirt ended up being a little bit fuller in the back and not as full in the front, but that's okay. It's kind of a cute look. How cute! You know, I have to put in a back seam, but so far I think it's super cute. I had to redo, I unpicked and then re-sewed the front because like the gathers weren't perfectly spread out, and sometimes when you're sewing them the gathers can get kind of like wonky. But now I think I'm pretty happy with it. I think it has a little bit more fullness in the back just from how it kind of turned out. But I think that would be cute, and you know, have a little bit more swish in the back. But yeah, I'm really liking how it's looking so far. I think it's kind of fun. The shirt that I have is actually what convinced me that I was going to like this dress, because I saw it and I was like, I don't know, like, am I going to like the sleeves? How they have like little ruffle and they're 3/4 length, like they're not like long, they're to the elbow, and then they're not like short. And I was like, wait, no, like one of my favorite shirts to wear to work is literally like the same sleeves. So yeah, I'm gonna like this. But yeah, this is, so now you can kind of see how it'll look with the sleeves. Just imagine them in pink. And soon you won't have to imagine them because I'm going to put them on. I'm trying to decide what exactly to do next. I think it's going to end up being the sleeves and then the facing for the neckline. Probably end up doing neckline facing first and then sleeves. I then needed to cut out the interfacing for my fabric facings. So in case you don't know, a facing in sewing and tailoring is a small piece of cloth, a small piece of fabric that is usually separate than the garment, or it can be part of the garment itself. But it's used to finish raw fabric edges. So in this case, my facing is going to be going on the neckline to help finish it and provide a nice finish edge without doing just a hem. Usually a facing is a stiffer material that gives the fabric a little bit more body. That's going to help keep it shape. Next up are the sleeves. I think the sleeves are my favorite part of the dress, specifically that little ruffle on the edge of the sleeves. I think it just makes this dress so cute and brings it up to a whole new level of cuteness, and also reminds me of Barbie. Barbie needs ruffle, Barbie needs pretty pink poofy things, and I love it. So for that ruffle, I use my serger, and I use my serger to finish a fair amount of the seams and edges in this garment, even though I don't think that's historically accurate, but it's close enough to where I want to wear this garment as an everyday outfit. I want to include this in my wardrobe, and like I can just be Barbie at work and just spice up my life that way. So I want to make sure that it's nice and finished, and when I throw it in the washing machine, nothing like weird is going to happen to it and it just falls apart. So I attached the ruffle to the sleeve, and then I sewed the sleeve into this tube of fabric and created a sleeve. I then put a gathering stitch across the top of the sleeve because it has this nice little poofy sleeve gather to it, and then I set the sleeve into the bodice. Next, I sewed the entire back of the dress together, and this is one way I was taught to install a zipper, is you sew everything together and then you sew the zipper on, and then you seam rip where the zipper is open. I have not the best relationship with zippers. I am always concerned when I'm sewing them in by machine, so I have just taken to hand sewing them in, and then that's what I did here. I hand sewed the zipper in with a back stitch, so a nice really strong hand stitch, like the strongest hand stitch that you can do. And yes, that does take a little bit longer than putting it in with your machine and a zipper foot, but I also have decided the older I get, the more I like hand sewing, and it's calming and meditative, and you have so much more control over where the needle is going than just ramming it through the machine and hoping for the best. I also hand sewed the facings in. I machine sewed it on, ironed it over, and then hand sewed finishing it down so that the stitches could be really tiny and you couldn't really like see it, because I didn't want just like a line of machine stitching around the neck of my garment. I just didn't think that was going to look good. The final thing that I needed to do for this outfit was to make a sash, and I almost didn't make the sash because I was just like, I just want to go to the movie. I don't need a sash, that's just an accessory. But good gracious, I am so excited that I actually made the sash, because the sash really completed the look. Of course, the sash is just a long piece of fabric, and it called for interfacing, so it's nice and stiff. So with the sash done, it was then time to go see the Barbie movie. I have been wanting to see this for weeks, and I was so excited. I had tried not to see any spoilers about what was happening, and if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's so fun and also so meaningful all at the same time. If you have a favorite part of the Barbie movie, please let me know down in the comments. There were so many wonderful parts and lines that it's so hard to choose one. Thank you so much for watching and coming along on this adventure with me. I hope that you will subscribe to become part of the Historical Belle Society. Until next time, bye!